messenger, and he wanted to meet him at a diner. So apparently Lindell is now the Alexander Lindell. He's now the COO of Lindell Industries. So his family has a lot of real estate holdings, businesses all over the world. We're talking about, of course, they're in New York City. Even though he met them when he met the guy, they were in Arizona. But the family is, got connections everywhere: Russia, UK, all kind of places, Italy, all over Europe. And apparently they also have some ties to like the CIA and different things. So they are very heavily ingrained in the underworld, and as well as, hell, shit, even probably I'm assuming local, authority. So he asked Jackson, sell me 50% of Moneta. Of course, Jackson says no. And he's like, either you sell it to me or I can make your life really difficult. And he tells him, I know that you have a woman that's special to you. And so, of course, Jackson's like, is that a threat? And he's like, no, I'm just telling you. I know you have someone that's special to you. That's not a threat. But we all know that is. So apparently the reason he wants to buy Moneta, he doesn't tell Jackson this, but Jackson pretty much knows what's going on because they have all these dealings. Well, he really wants to buy it because you got to think, Moneta ain't making no money. He wants to buy it because then he can launder money through it. And these underworld people, they're making billions. So they need a place to wash it. So he leaves. He goes, that's why he broke up with Harley, because he felt like that was going to protect her from this. I don't know why he thought that. Like somebody with those type of ties to the underworld, you don't think they don't know everything about you? Like, even if you break up, they still know this person means something to you. So it's like they still can hurt you. Just because you're not together doesn't mean anything. But I digress. So poor Harley, we bounce back to her. She's still in a funk. She stays that way for like weeks. She only gets out of bed when her bladder is like about to burst. Martin is her bodyguard, and him and Julia have started seeing each other. I mean, he's there all the time. Like, he's her whole ass full-time bodyguard. So Julia's in the apartment. They've been spending time together. He's not going to talk to, Harley. She's in the bed, so they grow to like each other. Now they're together. And at first her thought was, how could they be, doing this, being with each other, and she's going through this. And I'm like, girl, get it together. But that's her selfish side. She's in pain. I don't think she really wants to see a bunch of love. I get it. Whatever. So Martin, of course, has to go with her wherever she goes. And finally one day, she decides, she was going to take a shower. She wants to go outside. And Martin comes with her, and so does Julie. She doesn't even fight it, because it's like, what's the point? So they all go for a little walk. She asks Martin, does he know why Jackson ended it? Of course he says no. They continue their walk, and when they get back, she goes to her computer, which she hasn't opened up in weeks. And so she sees that she has sold over 400 books. And then, of course, that starts to get her itching to like write again. And even though she isn't in the loving mode, as soon as she starts typing, it just comes to her. So Jackson's having a hard time too. Nothing has happened yet. So it's been a few days since he met with Lindell. So he's thinking, okay, hopefully everything will be okay. No harm will come to anyone. But when he goes outside, he sees 2 of his bodyguards are dead. So he calls the police, but he doesn't tell them anything about the Lindells because, hell, he knows these people have ties to everybody. CIA, FBI, that's local and worldwide. So he doesn't say anything. He more so pushes it on, there's this guy, Parker, who's been, kidnapped my girlfriend and all this type of stuff. So he pushes the narrative that way. Which is smart, to be honest with you, because, yeah. So, Then he gets a phone call from Aurora. She's screaming for him to help her. And then a guy jumps on the line. And then from the request, there's a video chat request. So he accepts it. It's Aurora. She's gagged and tied up. And they tell him that Mr. Lindell now wants 51%, which would now give him controlling share of the company. And they let him know attorneys are going to be in your front door in 10 minutes. And if you don't do it, then your wife, Aurora, she's going to have the same fate as your bodyguards. I said, damn, these people are not playing. He tries to stall, but it's just to no avail. So the attorneys come there. He signs the first one. He initials the second page. And then he tries to stall again. And then the attorneys are like, you have no choice. You know, you should have taken his first offer. Now you force his hand. So then they tell him, if you don't sign this, they show him a video of Harley. And it's a video of her walking when she took that walk with Martin and Julie. It's a video of that with the guy, a sniper with the 9mm, who's right there, who could have took her out like that. And that right there made his ass sign the rest of those papers. So they give him a check for $50 million. We all know Mineta is not worth $50 million. And then they also have him record a video saying that he isn't doing this under duress. And they take him to go deposit the check right now. And so after everything is done at the bank, he goes to like a little stationery store, buys a journal that he knows it's something that Harley would really like. And he finds himself at her door, but he doesn't ring the bell. He ducks around the corner. When the door does open, it's a little old lady. And then Harley and Martin come out, and he follows them to the drugstore. Martin spots him and pretty much tells him, you know, stay away. Like, the girl just started to act like a human being. like if she sees you, it's just going to throw her back in a frenzy. So just, you know, and he agrees, and he's like, you're right, I'm sorry, I just miss it so much. Da, 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 da. So he agrees, and he goes home. And then Aurora is in the kitchen when he gets back. She gives him a hug. We bounce back to Harley. And so Harley's decided to keep the money that Jackson gave her, as hell. She needed it. She didn't want to go back to trying to do freelance work and trying to write her series on top of that. So lately, Harley's been snacking a lot. And the next morning she like throws up and she can't keep anything down, like not even Gatorade. And so Julie tells her, she's like, you know, we need to take you to the clinic. And so she goes to the clinic, and guess what? Old girl is pregnant. So of course she's in a total state of shock. She's like, how is this possible? We were so careful. And the doctor gives her like a prescription for the nausea, and gives her some samples to kind of take with her to help her, because old girl, she was in bad shape, because she had started to be like damn near dehydrated because she couldn't keep anything down. So they help her, of course, but then of course she's still freaking out because she's like, how am I going to afford a baby? So after a few days, her nausea it's subsided, and she starts thinking more and more that, you know, she can possibly have this baby. And, you know, Julia told her, she's like, Jackson's the father. He's loaded. You know, he's not going to have a problem helping you out, both you and the baby. So then, of course, you know, Harley's all on this thing of, no, but I know it's my, all this type of crap. And it's like, listen, it is what it is. You know, he's a dad. I mean, there's nothing, he's the father. There's nothing you can do about that. Like, you're stressing about money because you're thinking about her capacity to provide, right? And I get that to an extent. You don't want to fully depend on someone else. I get that. I totally understand it. But we still can't, like, not see. It's like when he's, certain times he's rich, it bothers her. And then other times, oh, he's rich, it's not a big deal to her. It's weird. It's just a weird dynamic with her with that. So then Harley starts thinking about possibly moving back home so her parents can help her out. But then that means she's got to leave New York. And that's like the only place, New York City. And that's the only place that has really felt like home to her. So then we go back to Jackson and Aurora, and they're talking, and she asks, like, why did you do it? And he said, I couldn't just let them kill you. And she tries to kiss him, and he pulls back, and he tells her, listen, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, and I don't think I ever was. I was like, fuck, that's cold. Like, shit. Like, he trying to make sure she understands, like, I don't want you to have any type of misconception. Like, damn. So then, she tells him, I tried to convince him that, you and Harley weren't together anymore, and they didn't believe me. And he wasn't mad. I mean, there's nothing she could have done. Like, hell, at the end of the day, even if she had said, yeah, he's got a girl, go get her. Shit, if she's being tortured, people do a lot of shit when they're under duress like that. You know what I mean? So he couldn't be mad at her. So his COO, Avery Phillips, calls him, and he tells her, he sold the controlling interest in the company to Lindell Industries. And of course, she's like, that doesn't make sense. And so he tries to get, she tries to get some answers out of him, but he doesn't really give them to her. But he makes the mistake of saying to her, everyone's safe now. And that puts her on alert. And she's like, oh, so were people not safe before? And then she lets him know that she knows about Lindell's underworld dealings. So she knows their tactics and things like that. But of course, he can't admit the stuff to her. And then he also told her, he was thinking about stepping down. Because now he only has, they own 51%, which leaves him with 49, and 30% of that is Aurora. So he has 19%. And it's like, what's the point? So Jackson decide, I've waited too long. I need to go see Harley, explain everything to her. So he goes to the door, rings the doorbell, but no one answers. A black vehicle pulls up, and it's Andrew Lindell, and he's in the back of the car, tells him to get in. So Lindell tells him that he hears that he's planning on stepping down from CEO. And Jackson's like, yeah, like with basically less than 20% of the shares, what's the point? And Lindell says that wasn't part of the deal. He was like, you're going to stay on indefinitely, because if you don't, then I will fire every single one of your employees and bring in my own people. And that gets his attention. Because the truth is, he doesn't want it. That was a fear of his as well. Like, he doesn't want anything to happen to these people. These people, have worked with him for so long, and they depend on this job. So, he's not going to want that to happen. So then it switches back to Harley, who was in the apartment when Jackson came to the doorbell. And she just kind of saw him, but she still doesn't want to talk to him. So she sits down with Martin, and he tells her, what is it that, like, pretty much what are you feeling? And he lets her know, like, he's a whole ass licensed therapist. And he has been for a year. And she was kind of like, well, why? Like, you're in security. And he's like, yeah, well, that's why. Because being in security, people talk to me. And I kind of want to be able to give them, like, good advice, or just to be able to listen, So I figure it was a great value. Of course, he still does security, because let's be honest, if he's doing it for these multimillionaires, billionaires, he's making more money than he probably would as a therapist. So why would he stop doing that? You know what I mean? I mean, I would think you maybe would. It's a little safer, but he likes his job, so that's what he does. So he listened to her, and she was just like, at first she didn't say anything, and they just kind of sit in silence, and he let her know, when you're ready to talk, you talk. And, that's that. And so then she tells him she feels angry. She's like, I'm still mad about what happened. And then she tells him about the baby, and that she hasn't decided what she wants to do. And Martin was like, is that another reason why you didn't really want to open the door? Because you haven't decided. And she's like, yeah, that's a part of it. Because I kind of want to make the decision based on what I want to do. I don't want to make the decision based on Jackson swaying me to keep the baby, and it's not what I really want. So it's like, as she's talking, she kind of decides she does want to keep the baby. And when she goes back to her computer, she checks her sales. She sees she sold over the 3 platforms almost 1,400 books this month. And so after her expenses